And you don't have to tell a friend what you need. The friend knows what you need. And a friend will bring it to you. Say like my mama used to say, everybody say your friend ain't your friend.
All right.
But I know that Jesus is my friend. And I know that Jesus calls us his friend. Because it's in the Bible. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father. I'm going to go ahead and read the scripture for a second. Calm down.
All right.
Hallelujah. Deuteronomy. You need to read it all. I just chose one verse. But it's talking about the years that they spent in the wilderness. Deuteronomy, the 2nd chapter, verse 3 says, ye have compassed this mountain long enough. Turn you northward. And I don't know who God is talking about, who he's talking to. But you done turn that compass long enough now.
All right.
It's time for you to do something different. Turn northward. Amen. The Lord says. Israel was in Egypt land. Let my people press so hard they could not stand.
Let my people
go down. Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Thus saith the Lord, bold Moses said,
let my people go.
if not, I'll smite your firstborn dead.
Let my people go.
No more shall they in bondage toil.
Let my people go.
Let them come out with Egypt's spoil.
Let my people go.
Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell Pharaoh,
Let
my people go down. Tell Pharaoh, let my people we come to say thank you.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to celebrate our history.
Yes.
But Lord, let your people know that we make history every day. Not just 1 month out of the year. Thank you, Lord, for choosing us as the people that you want to worship you. Giving us a reason to worship you. Knowing what we were going to go through, oh God, and still worship you. Still looking up to heaven when things weren't going right in their lives, Heavenly Father, when they were being whipped and beat, and oftentimes killed, they were still looking up to you, oh God.
Yes.
So if I live or if I die, I'm going to worship you, oh God. In the name of Jesus, we thank you. Amen.
Amen.
I had 2 subjects for today. One says, on my paper here, it says, God wants you to pursue happiness.
All right.
And the one that's in the bulletin says, free to pursue happiness. Same thing. Just letting you know that you are free, that you can pursue happiness, whatever that is for you in your life.
All right.
There's an ancient myth about a man named Tanalius. And he was condemned to live eternally in water that he couldn't drink, and see beautiful bowls of fruits that he could not even eat. The abundance of fruit was always beyond his reach. There's also a book entitled Clairvoyance, the reweaving of the fabric of community for black folk. The authors contend it is about a lot of African Americans that we live in a land of plenty, but it's too far beyond our reach. We live in a land of freedom, yet it's always beyond our reach. We're able to see potentials and possibilities, but we can't reach them. So it becomes their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Liberty and justice for all are beautiful bowls of wonderful fruit. Resources ripe for the picking, but it is eaten by the plagues of the insects called racism and sexism. While we are reaching for it. The authors concluded Tanalius must reject his destiny. Likewise, we must decide to deal differently with our life situation. We should see it differently, and we should do differently. We need to make our own peace and discover our own destiny. You have to do more than just reaching out for what is already there. It's creating or discovering our destiny, the will of God. Well, Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the plans that I have for you,
Right.
God says. Plans for you to prosper and not to harm. Plans for you to give hope and future. See, God never intended for all of us to be poor.
Right.
But he intended for us to use what he has given us, this mind, to make the things that need to happen in our lives in the direction you want to go into.
All right.
You've got to be creative and develop those things. Will Smith made a movie. It was called The Pursuit of Happiness. He was willing to pursue, to reach for his own peace, one of his own understanding. Miles Monroe writes that every human heart cries and yearns for the same thing, a chance to fulfill his or her own dreams and desires. Even the poorest man has a dream or two, y'all.
All right.
So the question comes to mind, what The French rose up and fought for it in the French Revolution. The American colonists fought to get it from Britain. Gandhi sat down to obtain it from Britain. It is called freedom. It is what our ancestors stayed up all night long watching and waiting to get. Our foremothers and forefathers died believing that freedom would come one day. So they sung about it. With fever, they proclaimed, "Oh, freedom! Oh, freedom! Oh, freedom over me! And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free." Freedom is what our parents marched about as they sang, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last." Freedom is what we sing about on the steps of Lincoln Memorial and while walking in the line between Montgomery and Selma. We sang freedom with our arms linked as we sat down at lunch counters and walked the streets or took long bus rides to the south. And while there we sang, "We shall overcome." Okay? We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Deep in my heart, if I do believe, I know, I just have it in my spirit that we shall overcome someday. Freedom. We want it, but we don't understand it. Freedom. It is being free from the laws and accountability. Is it being free? Freedom. Is it as long as I don't hurt anybody? Freedom. Is it enslaving others to secure my own freedom? Freedom. Is it creating circumstances and legislations, limitations on those who look and sound and dress differently from the way we do? All right. Freedom. Is it freeing those who haven't asked you to free them from weapons of mass destructions? Freedom. Is it taking a passport of my life, of my living maid, and only paying her $300 a month, essentially holding her captive in my home? What is freedom? Is it like freedom practiced in Sudan to ethnically cleanse the country of 400,000 persons of another tribe? Is it freedom to drink from a cup not your own and reach for what does not belong to you? All right. Is it freedom to take another person's social security number, credit cards, bank accounts, and identity for your own financial gain? Is it freedom to sniff and snort and shoot diabolical substance that kills the body and the soul? I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm saying something, y'all.
All right, all right.
Is it freedom to sell the same substance that strangled the life out of its users? Freedom. At what price is freedom?
All right.
Freedom has always been an expensive enterprise. It was and is never cheap. Freedom required the lives of men and women. Some gave it willingly while others had it taken away. It was so expensive that for Dred Scott and Denmark Vesey and Reverend Nat Turner, who was an an A&E preacher, y'all, for those who don't know. Placate Lincoln and in the South, a stable economy, and cheap labor force. The fight for freedom took the life of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. And it cost Coretta and her husband and children their dad. Freedom from sin, death, and hell cost God the life of his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. Jesus paid the ultimate price.
Yes.
Dying so that we can be free from sin, bondage, and fear. So if the Son sets you free, people of God, you are free indeed.
All right, all right.
There was a cost for Moses. Moses was in the plains of Moab. The desert was his pulpit. And Pastor Moses was preaching. Deuteronomy represents his sermonic rendering. He preached a series of sermons revealing the journey of the children of Israel. Pastor Moses interpreted what had taken place to the new crowd or the new church members in the congregation. The people who walked out of Egypt with him were now dead, with the exceptions of two, and that was Joshua and Caleb. Moses prepared the new generation to enter into the promised land. Their ancestors died believing in him, but never seeing the promised place that God has for them.
All right.
It appears that Moses had a preparation strategy in the form of a sermon. It was to share with them the experiences of their fathers and their mothers. That's what I was saying to you all earlier. We got to tell the story.
All right.
Our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren don't know what happened before you and your parents. You know, so you got to tell them so they'll know.
All right.
And Pastor Moses wanted them to profit from these mistakes and not be doomed to repeat them. That's why we tell the story. He used God's words and experience of God's people. He took the promises, covenants, and inspired utterance of God, and he preached his final sermon. It was the breath word or the breathed word of God, so it could be lived, loved, learned, and lifted.
All right.
Say that again. God's word needs to be lived by us. Yes. We need to love God's word whether we like it or not. Yes.
All right.
And we need to learn.
All right.
And I was always told if you learn better, you do better. So when we learn, we lift it up to our children and our children's children. God's word is to be consumed and confessed by the hearer in order to keep the inner life alive. It's not about this flesh that we look upon. I don't care how beautiful or how ugly some folks may think we look. All right. But it's about what's inside of us.
All right.
That comes out of us. For the will of God to do his work, his will, his way. Yes. In this way, God would become present, mysteriously near us, giving power and daily direction to you, the believer. Pastor Moses served his mega congregation for 38 years in the wilderness.
All right.
He set the stage to prepare a new generation who did experience the power of God in delivering them out of Egypt at Mount Sinai. So he prepared his last sermon and sung his last song. And before that, let me tell you what I mean, because some of y'all might miss that. I don't want you to miss it. When God tells you to do something, you need to do it.
All right. All right.
big head after 38 years.
Yeah.
Folk were thirsty and wanted water.
Mm-hmm.
And God told him to touch the rock with his rod.
Mm-hmm.
He mad at the folk. He go hit the rock. So now Moses is singing his last song and preaching his last sermon because he was disobedient.
All right.
Soon Moses would pass the gavel of leadership to Joshua and go up to Mount Nebo. So in other words, for those who y'all might not know, Moses did not see the promised land because he was disobedient. Okay?
All right.
I'm gonna skip over that.
All right.
You got to be obedient to God.
Mm-hmm.
Say obedient.
Obedient.
Amen. You got to be obedient to God. God preached to Moses. Hallelujah. God turned around and preached to Moses.
All right.
And then God did Moses' eulogy. And the word of God says that the angels wrapped Moses up in his burial garment. And the surviving community and the testimony is there hasn't been another prophet like Moses.
All right.
Moses told them, the Lord said, you have compassed about this mountain long enough. In other words, y'all, oh Lord, don't get me in trouble, but Turner Chapel, you've been going round in circles long enough.
All right. Amen. All right. All right.
Come out of that circle.
Yes. Amen.
Go northward. You made your way around this hill country long enough.
All right.
Now turn north.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been going around and circling these hills long enough because you were disobedient to God in the very beginning.
All right.
See, we
Amen.
suffer some things because of us.
All right. All right.
Not nobody
Amen.
else.
Amen.
Because we think we know better than God.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand what God is telling. You don't have to understand what God is telling you. Just do what He tells you to do.
All right.
He tells you how He tells you.
All right.
And as long as He tells you.
Amen.
God was saying to Moses, enough is enough.
All right.
God indicated that direction is just as important as destination.
All right.
Gotta follow direction. Those of you who cook, and I won't say just women because there are men who cook too. You can't make a cake without all of the ingredients.
All right. Amen.
If you leave any ingredients out, you do not have a cake.
All right. All right.
It means you got to follow the direction.
All right.
And God is telling us we got to follow His direction.
All right.
The destination was set for the promised place of God.
Mm-hmm.
The Israelites were in the general vicinity for more than 30 years. It was a part of their mission statement for 400 years and a part of the strategic plan at least 38 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yet they didn't know where to go because they wouldn't follow directions.
All right.
All they were doing was going around and around the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
In the hill country of Mount Seir. They were marking time in a merry-go-round agendas. Some of us are doing that in our household.
All right.
Some of us are doing that with our families.
Uh-huh.
Just doing beating stuff around the hill. Some of us do the same thing that they did back then. Freedom is the destination, but we engage in a merry-go-round activities, never really arriving at our destination.
All right.
We have merry-go-round agendas, affirmative action debates, and actions discussed as a ballot question, voters' right bill, continuing debate, illegal immigrants, guest workers' rights, disproportionate sentence between the whites and the black. Turner Chapel, God says you have walked around the circle long enough.
All right. All right.
They were delivered but not free. Deliverance provided an opportunity for freedom, but it was not the fulfillment of the freedom. They were delivered but not free. God gave them the opportunity, but they refused to take it, like some of us. It's like the story of a man who was sentenced to death row for 10 years. He sat in his cell proclaiming his innocence to all who would listen to him. Finally, a judge granted him a new trial. And due to the incompetence of his previous defense attorney, new evidence was provided for which proved that this man was innocent. He walked out of the jail a free man. Normally we would say, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. But after his release, his mind wandered back to the days that he spent in prison. He thought, it's Tuesday. I wonder what they're serving in the prison cafeteria today. I wonder how many of my cellmates is making it without me. Who won the football game in the yard today? Is so-and-so out of solidarity confinement? He spent his days thinking about his prison life. He was delivered, but he wasn't free.
All right.
There's no stress in sitting in a cell with a cot and 3 hots a day. Freedom demands responsibility and accountability outside of the cell.
All right.
And I'm going to tell you quickly about a real life story. It was in the Times-Picayune newspaper. There was a man who spent about 40 years of his life in Angola, Louisiana. And like this man I just told you about, he got free. The man was out 3 days, and the paper said he was back at Angola knocking on the door to see if he could get back in. Because the world had changed so much. And he was lost. He didn't know what to do or how to do anymore. See, we get stuck
All right.
in situations we ought to not be stuck in. And I come to say, if you have God in your life, it does not matter where you are. If God sets you free, you are free indeed.
All right.
You need to look to him for your direction.
All right.
But let me get back to the Israelites. They were delivered, but they kept covering the same ground. We do the same thing. By starting wars we can't finish. Making unchallenged hostile policies, squandering international equity, running my way or the highway.
All right. Yeah.
Those administrators, we got one right now. It's either my way or the highway. That's the administration we're under right now. Declaring voting rights with an expiration date. How many times they have said to us that we need to come off the road because the time period they gave us is over. It needs to be new legislation drawn up. We're drawing up voting districts, debating segregation versus no segregation, and pondering minimum wage opposed to living wages. Right. We keep covering the same old ground. The Israelites were delivered from Egypt, but not from their thinking. It was the Egypt thinking. People who got their parents in trouble over the golden calf at Mount Sinai. And if we're not careful, it will be the Egypt thinking people today in our time, turning back 40, 50 years now of progress from the civil rights movement.
All right. All right.
My heart cries when I see from whence we came to where we are. We beat around the stump, y'all. We coming right back to where we were before civil rights. Y'all heard that man say he was making America great again? Are you going to just sit here and just let everything go by and not require anybody to represent you to keep making America great again? I always thought America was already great.
All right.
But you got to read into the line of what he's saying. That man wants slavery again.
Right.
He wants you to work for nothing again. So you're going to sit there and just let that happen? Freedom is more difficult than oppression. It demands more. Their parents thought it was easier to exist in slavery than to live in freedom. That was the Israelites. And that's why they wanted to go back. God provided them a way to freedom, and they didn't even want it. Some of us do the same thing.
All right.
In our personal situation, God provides us a way to pursue happiness, but we want to remember, we want to go back instead of going forward, seizing God's promise. Ain't nothing good about the past or the good they gone.
All right. All right.
Think about that. Some of y'all didn't catch that.
All right.
Because your past wasn't all that good. You think about it.
All right.
Not like it is today. All right. God provided houses they didn't build. Land that they did not purchase or plow. Harvest they did not plant. Instead of the prison culture being told what to do, when to do, how to do, where to do it, they had to organize. That's what we got to do. Organize.
All right.
Exercise discipline. And be responsible and accountable to God. Not no man, but God.
All right.
And yourself for your actions. Freedom demands backbones and guts, y'all.
All right.
You can't keep muttering and murmuring against each other. Like
All right.
you do.
All right.
God is your leadership.
Amen.
You who are in Israel need to create your own feast from your wilderness experience. Some of us are in the Israelite experience, y'all. You are near the land of milk and honey, but it just may be out of your reach. God says, turn around and go into the right direction.
All right.
Stop going around in circles and being strong enough for freedom to work ahead. If you're free, you should be free to pursue the pursuit of happiness, whatever that is for you.
All right.
Together we can pursue freedom. For the confused, we can do it for the misled, the picked on and the picked over. We're talking about community now.
All right.
For the haves and have-nots. We must be strong enough to retrieve freedom out of the hands of self-destruction personalities.
All right.
We are free to pursue freedom that closes the gap between the rich and the middle class and the working poor. We are free to pursue a freedom demanding sacrifice and demonstrating we don't want to just want it for ourselves, but we want it for everybody.
All right. All right.
If everybody ain't free, you ain't either.
All right.
This speaks of our character. We're free to pursue freedom that reaches those that are different hues from us and from different tribes. We're free to do something significant. This helps make people's families, communities, and countries better for everybody.
All right.
Richard Allen did that for the African Methodist Episcopalians. You heard some of the story. Richard Allen was born in 1760. Yes. Born into slavery in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It says he was converted at the age of 17 and began preaching on the plantation at the local Methodist churches, preaching whenever he got a chance. He said, sometimes I would just wake up in my sleep, preaching and praying to God.
All right.
His owner became one of Allen's converts. Want to know how he got saved? He kept living like God told him to live. He kept being obedient to what God told him to be obedient to.
All right.
And one of those sermons when he preached, his slave master got converted and baptized.
All right.
He was so impressed with him that he allowed Allen to purchase his freedom. By 1786, and I'm reiterating some of this stuff, but I have to tie it into what I'm talking about today.
All right.
1786, blacks made up 10% of the Methodist Church in the United States. There was 13 colonies. And though whites and blacks often worshiped together, blacks was usually called the Negro pew or the African corner.
Mm.
I'm going to put a pin there for a minute. When I said early in my prayer, if I just had just a fraction, a millimeter or two of his brains, I'm serious about that. Because when the white man decided that they were going to let him, and he had to fight, they didn't let him. He had to go to court, y'all. This church had to go to court to be free and to have our own worship.
Mm.
Even though they didn't want us there, y'all.
Yes.
Even though they put us, first they used to allow us to integrate in the back, and then they decided to build a galley up in the back up there, like a choir loft, you know. But we still had to come down to kneel and pray, and they didn't like what we were saying because we were praising God that they didn't get killed that week, and some of the slaves got away, and they had their own little secret way of talking, and they didn't know what they were saying. And so that's why they wanted them to get off their knees, you know, because we didn't want to worship God. And
Right.
see, I get upset sometimes and I don't know if you all say anything, but I get upset sometimes when folks say you're preaching like a Kojic or a Baptist. Well, I'm going to say something.
All right.
We were preaching and worshiping and serving God before all these other denominations even came about.
All right. All right. All right.
But see, they weren't like us. We got educated. And we got cute. And we got better clothes than they had. And we coming in and we sitting here being pussy. We can't say amen.
All right. All right.
We don't say hallelujah. Lord's name be praised.
All right.
And so they had to leave St. George's Church. Thank God they did.
Amen.
And when they finally went to court, and we won the African Methodist Episcopal Church title, they thought we had one church. Allen had churches in all 13 colleges.
All right. All right.
There was no United States then, but I mean, the territory is still the same, okay? That's how smart this man was. That's what God is talking about that I've already told you about. You got to take and be creative, and you got to develop.
Yes.
He was smart enough to do what he did. And I don't want to get ahead of my sermon. I'm almost finished. St. George had no history of segregated seating, at least until the latter 1780s, when the white leaders required the black parishioners to use the chairs then around the wall rather than the pews. And during one service in 1787, a group of blacks kneeled to pray, as I told you. And the white trustee came over because they was praising and worshiping God. They didn't come here quiet like, okay, they were praising, they were talking to God.
All right. All right.
And that's why he said, you know, you need to get up from here and get up from here now. And Absalom said, well, just wait, let us finish praying and we will do that. He said, oh, if you don't get up, I'm going to call for an aid and force you away. But the group did finish praying before they got up and walked out. And Allen went ahead. And in 1794, he purchased an old frame building that still sits in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, an old blacksmith shop. And created Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church, which stands historically today in Philadelphia. Bishop Francis Asbury dedicated the building in 1799 and ordained Allen a deacon. For the next 15 years, white Methodist leaders in Philadelphia tried to keep Allen's congregation and property under their jurisdiction. But on the first day of 1816, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that the church belonged to Allen and his associates.
All right.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus.
Amen.
A denomination quickly came together. In April, delegates from several black Methodist churches convened in Philadelphia and drew up an ecclesiastical compact that united the Independent African Methodist Episcopal Church. Amen. Church. Allen was ordained an elder and then consecrated a bishop. The first black to hold such an office in the whole United States. Well, there was 13 counties then, but even in today in America, he's the first bishop.
All right. Amen.
When they looked up, Richard Allen, I said it already, had churches in all 13 colonies prior to there being the United States. Bishop Allen, born a slave, was a millionaire before his death in Philadelphia. This is proof that the poor you will have with you always. But you don't have to be one of them.
All right.
The denomination became, by all accounts, the most significant black institution in the 19th century. And today it has over 6,000 churches, and over that piece said 3 million, and mine has 2 million because we have decreased. I can remember when I was a child, we had 6 million people in our churches. But they have split off, AME Zion, CME, and other denominations. But I'm confident that Allen had read Jeremiah 29:11. This was done because God had shown them a way to freedom.
All right.
God stopped them from going round in circles. And they showed God that they were strong enough for the freedom work that lied ahead. Richard Allen and the group of worshipers lived in a land that seemed beyond their reach. They were able to see potentials and possibilities. And thanks be to God, they were able to reach them. I have to tell you that's freedom.
Yes.
Servants of God, you have compassed your mountains long enough. Now listen to God. You have made your way around the hills long enough. Church, enough is enough.
Yes.
You need to do what God is telling you to do. Amen. Individually as well as collectively. Amen. You've been going around in these circles. How long will you continue to do what is not necessary to do? I don't know about you, but I thank God for our history.
Amen.
I thank Him because there is something that we can identify with and to hold on to and to be proud of. How much success have we as a black people had since Richard Allen?
All right.
That reaches the masses. Not for your personal gain. I mean, we all do that. That's self-preservation. We all do that. The only other person that I know of that has done something similar to that, and I don't know history that well because I used to think I hated it, was Dr. Martin Luther King. Amen. In Africa, it was Mandela. Madiba, as they call him over there. So my question comes to you. It's an individual thing. What are you going to do as an individual to impact not just your home, but your community?
All right. All
Your
right.
church that may even spread out to the world. What are you going to do differently in life to do God's work? That's God's will and His way. Yes. Or you going to sit there and say, God ain't told me to do. Yes, He has. The God I serve speaks to all of us.
All right.
How you know that, Pastor? I said, I know it because you all said, if I'd have listened to my first time.
All right. All right.
Instead, I listened to my second time. God spoke to you the first time.
All right.
Satan stole the blessings and the gift when you went his way. And you think it's your thinking. We have to come to the knowledge and understanding that there are two spirits in this world. God's and Satan's. That's why he asks in the Bible, whose report you gonna believe?
All right.
Are you gonna believe my report? Or the one that you think you're making? Because Satan fooled you and made you think that's your thought.
All right.
No, you're not. And so this Founders Day, I'm praying that I've given you enough information for you to want to make a difference. Not just in your life, but in the life of people. I'm going to close with this. I used to have a little plaque that I saw in a store one day in New Orleans. New shopping center came up a long time ago. And when I read the words, tears was coming out of my eyes. I said, that's just how I feel. How did somebody know how I feel? So I bought it. The plaque said something similar to this. Any good that I can do, any kindness that I can say, let me do and say it now. For I shall pass this way but once.
All
I
right.
might not have a chance to come back.
All right. All right.
Y'all hear what I'm saying? And do it later. So whatever you can do right now, today, you do it.
All right. All right.
Don't put it off for tomorrow. Because tomorrow may never come.
That's right.
All of us ought to want to leave a legacy beyond our household. Mr. John Moore was in this neighborhood and he saw that the kids had this, that, and the other, or the old folk were being served this, that, and the other. And for years, Brother John may be gone or move out of the neighborhood or whatever. People will still remember that.
All right.
That's what you were put here on the earth for.
Yes, amen.
You're not put here to accumulate everything for you.
All right.
And folks look up to you. No, they're supposed to look up to God.
All right. Amen.
And so, if there's anybody here this morning who really don't know what I've talked about, and I'm not going to say I'm not bragging about my church, but I am bragging because I love this church.
Amen.
Because it was born out of slavery.
All right.
Amen.
I love this church because slavery did not keep us down.
All right.
That we're free to pursue the happiness that we desire to have and to share. I love it because we are organized. This man that created this church, he was organized. We can't even live up.
All right. All
to
right.
nothing in the discipline, which also coincides with the Bible. And we can't keep up with all the property and everything that they bought, all the schools, the hospitals, the home. We done lost all the homes and been, over the years, losing some of the schools, the universities. People who had nothing, you all. People who came out of slavery. We make more money than they ever dreamed of ever having.
All right.
They did more with less than we do with more.
All right.
Wake up, people of God. Wake up. And so, if there's somebody here that doesn't know how to get to that road, to Christ, that's what it all boils back to. Richard Allen was doing what God was telling him to do. And so if you don't have God speaking to you to tell you what to do, I offer Christ to you this morning. say we open the doors of the church, but the doors of the church have been open since Christ died on the cross.
All right. All right.
The only thing I can stand here to do is to give you a handshake and welcome you to the family of God, that you may work out your soul salvation. Amen. So while you're thinking in the choir you're singing, you may want to come and give your life to Christ.